Welcome back to another episode of First Use, and in today's video I'm going to go through Melbourne out of the centre bounce against the Pies in their King's birthday clash. What a game it was. I'm going to really hone in on the strategy that went into the centre bounces from Melbourne. Clayton Oliver had 3 centre bounce clearances, Cozzy Pickett had 3 as well, Christian Petrarca had 4. The best for the Pies was Nick Dacos with only 2, and Ned Long, who's been really well improved player for the Pies this year, had 0 out of the centre bounce. Has been the blocker and been really good out of the centre, but Melbourne was able to negate that. I'm going to look at where Gorm was trying to hit it, how they set it up, how they used the sweeper, how they used the blocker, and also how they used the receiver coming through. So let's get in the clips and let's dissect how they're able to win 16 to 7 out of the centre bounces against the Pies. So this is the first centre bounce of the game, and it's always good to get an understanding of the matchup. They do a lot of homework during the week on where they want to hit, how they opposition set up. Really like this. It looked like, in this situation, it looked like they were going to hit it to Clayton Oliver, but the thing is, Max Gawn gets switched around in the ruck and then ends up trying to hit it backwards. So then become Christian Petrarca as a sweeper. But I reckon what they were trying to do in this first setup was trying to hit it in this area for Clayton Oliver to come onto. The other thing they try and do, Melbourne, is they love to set up the anchor. I always call them the anchor points. So that's the blocker, that's the sweeper, and Melbourne's going left of screen. Sometimes they use Cozzy Pickett, and this is what Collingwood also do, is with Nick Dacos, they wrap around. So when Gawn comes in, he just drops it back and becomes a really good running pattern. But this is the first centre bounce. Nothing comes of this, but you can see how open this space is. So I reckon Collingwood went into the game pretty defensive because they're coming up against Max Gawn. No disrespect to their own ruck in Cameron, who's been playing really, really well. But I reckon they had a bit of a defensive mindset. So you can see here, from looking at this, Melbourne's dictated terms in this situation, and throughout the course of the game, that's what they ended up doing. So the ball goes up, and you could see Clayton Oliver's trying to get there, but really held on in a way. And you can see Max Gawn has turned around and now using his left hand. Cozzy's standing still, so that means no run through, just to hold his space, and these two are wrestling. But yeah, it just gives you a bit of an idea of what the matchup is at the start of the centre bounce. So this is in the first quarter, and this is what I love. So when Melbourne's going left to screen, you've got to have the sweeper. Really important. Sweeper's such an important role, and I do go on about the sweeper a lot, but the sweeper's got to go back and forth. That's what they call the sweeper. You go side to side. Then you either have the receiver at here or here. In this situation, they love to use Cozzy as a receiver. 1, because he's quick, and 2, he can break the lines really, really easy. So when this unfolds, you can see that Clayton Oliver's on a dangerous opponent in Nick Dacos. So it's a pretty hard tag, in a sense, in the centre bounce. Christian Petrarca is just holding his ground. But what the actual hit zone, and this is where Max Gawn using his right hand, he tried to do this in the first centre bounce. He's trying to hit it into this space. That's why Cozzy is pushing his opponent this way. So there's your anchor point, there and there. There's your 2 anchor points. Really, really important. But when you have the receiver in and around, they try to do it on the line, that's when they can zip around. And this is what they love to use Cozzy. They come in here, Cozzy's still pushing, and now you've got this space here. So it's a really good setup, but you've got anchor and anchor. Really important, because you don't want to be exposed on the front side when Collingwood's going right of screen. So you want to be able to push your opponent, ideally here, into the contest, so you can then be in that position, and then there's your blocker. But I love what Cozzy does here. Great body work, just pushes at the right time. Ball goes in the air. And I've said this before, look at all the eyes going towards the ball. This is the time you make your move. Don't make it early. You waste your energy. Do it when the ball's in the air, because that's when your opponent's at the most vulnerable. So you can see Ned Long's looking. That's why Pickett is driving him this way. So when that ball goes in the air, that's when you make your move, and that's exactly what happens. Great tap from Gawn. Out they go. So this is in the second quarter. So Melbourne's going right of screen. Anchor point. This becomes an anchor point as well, but also too they're on Dacos, so it's a really you're mindful of what you're doing. But look how much space that Cozzy gives himself here. So he can come at the ball, but he's got to do his work early. You can see he's doing the work. What did I say about when the ball's in the air? Look at him doing the work right now. He's pushing really hard against Ned Long to create the space. But keep in mind also too that Gawn's favourite dominant hand is right. So comes in, Oliver's checking already. Wants to make sure he's on him. Knows exactly where he is. That's just, as a sweeper, that's just a hold. Don't want to allow them to get out the front side. And then this is a great tap. And look at the work that Cozzy's doing there. Awesome work. Getting low, driving his legs, and pushing his opponent out of that space. It's brilliant work. And now he's got him off. Just uses his body so well, and good luck chasing him. So really good set play. I really like that. It's really important too. You have the anchors and just let's Collingwood do the same thing. They have the two anchor points, Dacos in the middle, he just flies around when they win the tap. Now this is also a really good setup. So it's almost like it's a forward triangle, but then you could say that Collingwood's gone a defensive triangle. So defensive triangle from Collingwood's perspective is Melbourne's going right of screen. So the defensive triangle is that setup. So essentially what they're trying to do in a sense and hoping is that Gawn hits it back because that's where he sees all this space. But then Collingwood players rush onto it because then the ball is going their way. But really smart play here from Gawn. So he's identified that they've gone a defensive triangle. So they push the blocker back. Look how much space he's got off the line. So what they're trying to create, once they identify this, they want to hit it forward and they want the blocker to receive. So as this plays out, you see there's hardly any movement from Petrarca and hardly any movement from Cozzy Pickett. But the key ingredient, and really important to note in this situation, is that Petrarca is on this side. Why? Because in the event that they lose the tap, he is the first one to get to it. So you still want to have, and that's why Cozzy's on this side as well, you still want to have support on this side. That's generally where the sweeper is, but you want to be the first one to get there in the event that Gawn doesn't win the tap. If they win the tap and say Petrarca's on this side and Cozzy's over here, good luck trying to stop that. So in this situation, it's really important that you have coverage, and this is what they had. So, but then Gawn, really good, and hits it forward, and there's the separation right there. That's all you need in this game. And look at Cozzy. Look how hard he's holding, and so is Petrarca. So it was a great set play. And I love that Rivers got off the line. So really good. Then it comes at the ball, and then out they go. So really good set play. I love that, and I love how they identified that Collingwood had gone a defensive triangle and to hit it forward, not to go back, but then to use the blocker as the receiver. So this is exactly what I was talking about. So it's a perfect example of what I've just previously spoke about. So here we go. So Melbourne's going left to screen. That's your setup. That's the blocker coming up. There's your anchor point. He's on this side. There's your anchor point. He's on this side. So both Petrarca and Pickett are pushing in, but you still want to have coverage on this side. But if Gawn doesn't win the hit out and hits it forward, you need to have protection. And look what happens. He doesn't win the hit out, but look who's first to get there. Christian Petrarca as the sweeper. So that's why you have to push them in. That's why you need to be on their goal side to cover, because you don't have the sweeper. Comes off, another centre bounce clearance. So I love that set play. That's exactly how they had set up previously, but they had that coverage. So Melbourne's going left of screen. So very similar setup again. But what I want you to take particular interest in is Christian Petrarca. I thought he was awesome as the blocker and awesome as a sweeper. And so this is what they want to do. They want to hit it forward. Look at all this space. So they want Clayton Oliver come into this area, receive, and then hand pass off. But I love what Christian Petrarca does here. So the ball is hit forward, great hit. Right, so you got Clayton Oliver, just misses it. But what I love about Petrarca in this situation is his balance. And now I've spoken about this before, and I've had a lot of people reach out and say, what's balance, what's balance? Let these two fight it out. You hold out. Don't go in. Because if Petrarca goes in and Long wins this, guess who's free? That's a no-no. So you've got to have balance around the contest. So this is what he does. Holds. Right. So then Dacos goes in. So there's another contested footy happening. Right. So they let it play out. But he's still holding. I love this. Have patience. Have trust in your teammate to go one-on-one. That's why side bottom and like this. This is exactly right. And then you see Langford as well. You've got to have balance. Don't all go in there. And then all of a sudden, it slips out, and guess who gets the ball? And then you're out. So really good. I love how he pushed his man into the contest as a sweeper. So he's on the goal side, but the ability to be balanced at the contest. So Melbourne's going left to screen. This is when I love when they use Petrarca as the blocker. So there's your sweeper, there's your blocker, and potentially there's a receiver. But if you're going to the blocker, so you're hitting into this space and hitting it forward, but I love how he uses his strength. He's so good at getting his lower centre of gravity. Look at him holding there, holding his position, and then just takes and then uses his strength, his lower legs, and bang. And what I love, he didn't get sucked in the contest. It was spoke about the sweeper. Don't get sucked in the contest. You can be in a position to be used. So he doesn't get sucked in. But what I love is this dinky little tap. What Melbourne have been early in the year is what they did a lot is when they got the clearance, they would just bomb it out of there. And they would just play into the hands of the opposition. Now they're actually starting to lower their eyes and be either a handball receive, as you saw previously there where Petrarca gave it to Bowie off the line, or just improvise. And this is what I love by Clayton Oliver, just a dinky little tap, little kick, and out they go. So really, really smart play, but I love that from Christian Petrarca as the blocker. And then this is once again as the blocker. But you see here, really important, as I said, so they've got a defensive triangle set up from Collingwood. You've still got to have representation on the goal side. You can't be exposed. Because if you lose a tap, like I've said in the previous clips, you get really exposed. But this is great. I love the body work he does here. He's still holding his width. Very important to hold your width. And now these two players, what they are? They're on goal side. So they can then, if they lose the tap, they're the first ones to get to the contest. So they work extremely hard to make sure that when they had the defensive triangle set up, in this situation, defensive triangle, which is what Collingwood's got set up, so forward triangle, that they made sure that they could be the first ones to get on this side. So really smart and well drilled, well set up. And then just his ability to use his strength and get to the ball. Awesome play. Righto, so it was really good setup. I love the structure that they went with. They identified, and that's what you need to do. You need to identify if you've got a dominant ruck, and you know, Darcy's a good player, but I thought Gorm took the chocolates yesterday. But when you've got a dominant ruck, you've got to be mindful of what the opposition are trying to set up. So it's really important that you have that structure set up. You identify what's going on, and you speak to the mids, but also the ruck, and trying to figure out what to do. All right, so let's go to the whiteboard, and I'll give you some drills that you can focus on to in relation to those clips I've just shown. So I'll go through just a really a really sound structure that you can start with. If you're just starting out or you're a new coach, it's really important to have, so you're going top of screen or you're going left of screen. It's important you have, there's obviously the centre circle, you have your sweeper, you have your blocker, and if you've got a right-handed ruck, generally they hit it into this area. So your receiver can start, basically your receiver starts there to come along. So that's general rule of thumb. And then you hit it in what we call a 10 o'clock position. So I'll run you through the clock. So you're going this way. So this is 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So you get the gist. Majority of rucks hit right-handed. They hit in this area here. If we're going same way. Left-handers hit here in this area here. Right-handers in there. Then you can get a bit creative with right-handed rucks. You can hit it. Right-handed rucks will always hit here when they hit back, and then the same with left-handers. They hit in this area. So you determine how your ruck's set up. But what Melbourne identified is that when Collingwood, I use Collingwood as the X's. So Melbourne's going this way. What they did is, in those clips, this is the X's at Collingwood. So they set up what we call a defensive triangle. So defensive triangle, like that. Sorry about the little. So what Melbourne then identified, and it is a tactic that a lot of clubs try and do, they try and force you to hit it back. Why? Because then the ball is going their way. So it's a good tactic, and we've done it. I've done it many times. But what Collingwood wanted to how they had it set up, and this is what I really love the smarts of Melbourne. They identified that, hey, let's get our man here, but let's get him coming at the ball, but let's stand right off. So you can essentially dictate. So once they set up, Collingwood went the X is here, right, and then Melbourne sat off with their blocker, as you saw with Rivers, and Petrarca did it a couple of times. So really smart play. But the other smart play about it is that when Melbourne got on this side, they worked so hard to get on this side. When they were on here, they worked really hard to get here. And that's because they wanted to try and protect generally where the sweeper is. Because if they lost the tap, and you saw it in one of those clips where Collingwood won the tap, but guess who got onto it? Petrarca. And that was because he did his work early and he got on the goal side. So that's a really smart play. But the other smart play about it is to hit it forward. So you still got momentum going forward. As I showed you there, the rucks, right-handed rucks generally hit here, and if you've got a dominant ruck, left-handed ruck, you're hitting in this area. You still want to keep the momentum getting out of the centre bounce. So to do that, get the blocker, get him standing off, come at the ball, and then you can, but also have the protection. So I really love the way that Melbourne set it up yesterday, and that's about doing your homework. So identify, spend 10 minutes at the end of training, getting the mids in, working with the rucks, and trying to set the plays up as best you can. So there you go. So even though Melbourne weren't able to get the 4 points, it was a wonderful game from them. The D's played super well, and I was really impressed with the way they played over the centre. They changed their hit zones. They had a lot of variety. Cozzy was the blocker, Cozzy was the sweeper, Cozzy was the receiver, and the same with Oliver, same with Petrarca, same with Rivers. So I love that, because when you get into the centre bounce and you're seeing someone's received it and now another one's received it, it puts the opposition off. But most importantly, Gorman was getting his hands on the ball, so they're able to dictate terms. Really well set up. I love how they did that. They had some really good synergy happening, and hopefully they can keep that. The synergy in the centre bounce is really, really important, and that's what led to a 16-7 dominance out of the centre bounce. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all your support. Please spread the word about First Use YouTube channel. Thanks a lot.